Hi, my name is John Alzheimer, and I am a credit expert who contributes to creditcardinsider.com. Today's question is this: as a senior citizen, what should I know about identity theft? Well, there's a few things that you should know about identity theft, and they're all very scary. First is that identity theft continues to be the fastest growing white-collar crime in the United States. The Federal Trade Commission publishes a report every year called the Sentinel Report. And the Sentinel Report essentially aggregates consumer complaints not only to the Commission, but also to a variety of other law enforcement agencies across the United States. And for 13 consecutive years, the number one complaint to the Federal Trade Commission and other law enforcement authorities across the U.S. has been identity theft. And there's really nothing to suggest that this year is going to be any different and that something else is going to hop up and take identity theft as the number one consumer complaint. So the takeaway from that and what that underscores is that identity theft continues to be a significant problem, not only for senior citizens, but really for everybody in general. However, as a senior citizen, there are a few things that you need to keep in mind. You are a target, and the reason you are a target is because fraudsters recognize that you are at a stage in your life where you are not accumulating debt and you're really going through the process of paying off debt and building a considerable nest egg. And at this point in your life, you probably do have a considerable nest egg built, which means that you are very attractive to fraudsters, which means that you are likely going to be targeted. Now, there are ways that you can avoid being targeted or minimize your risk of becoming a victim to identity theft. Things like running all your sensitive documents through a shredder when you throw them away, using credit monitoring services if you choose to do so, putting security freezes on your credit reports, which essentially takes them out of circulation. And another one, this is actually pretty counterintuitive, but using credit cards for your financial transactions versus things like debit cards or cash. There's a federal statute called the Fair Credit Billing Act, and the Fair Credit Billing Act protects you and it caps your liability on credit card fraud to no more than $50. And then the four major credit card networks, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover, all have zero fraud liability policies, which means that if you're using a credit card for things like traveling, paying for gas, going to restaurants, and some fraudster procures your card information and goes out and starts using it, nothing is going to come out of your pocket. You are completely protected. You can't say the same things when you're using a debit card or when you're using cash. You're definitely much more exposed, and so the fraudsters know this. And so as a senior citizen, it's probably not a bad idea to spend more of your money on a credit card and then just pay it off at the end of the month than it is to be a cash-only type of consumer. There's another thing to keep in mind that's also very important, is that at this point in your life, and senior citizens is generally defined as someone who's 62 years or older, although that's going to vary depending on who you ask. At this time in your life, you're generally not out applying for credit very often, which means that your credit reports are not being pulled very often, and it's very likely that you are not checking your own credit reports because you're just not a credit active consumer at this time. Fraudsters know this, and so applying for credit in your name and your credit report being pulled by a bank thinking that it's you is not going to set off any bells and whistles and alarms for you because you're not actively checking your report. So here's a suggestion for you that you may want to take advantage of. You might want to place what's referred to as a security freeze on your 3 credit reports. Now remember, you have 3 credit reports: Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. Depending on what state you live in, it can cost you as little as $3 per credit report to freeze them. That's $9 total, not monthly, just $9. When you freeze your credit reports, you're essentially taking them out of circulation, which means that no new credit can be extended in your name because your credit reports are not available for the lender to see when they're underwriting the loan or the application. So that's a very good option, especially for seniors who are just simply not using credit any longer and don't want their credit reports just sitting out there for fraudsters to take advantage of. If you have any other questions pertaining to credit or other financial topics, please submit them to creditcardinsider.com. Thanks for your time. Have a great day.